Your brain, when under stress, can shrink the hippocampus by 14% in just a month, reported in a 2018 University of Texas study. The hippocampus is crucial for forming memories and decision-making. Contrary to the belief that stress sharpens focus, chronic exposure to cortisol, the stress hormone, erodes the very pathways you rely on to make sound choices. Instead of honing your instincts, stress can make it harder to learn from mistakes, leaving you in a cycle of self-sabotage. At the cellular level, neurons lose dendrites, those vital branches for interneuronal communication. Less communication means more impulsive decisions. Anxiety primes your amygdala, the brain's fear center, to overreact. A study from MIT in 2021 found that heightened amygdala activity silences your prefrontal cortex, the hub of rational thought. The amygdala's hyperactivation isn't just a fleeting moment. It rewires synaptic connections, reinforcing fear-based thinking patterns over time. These changes manifest physically shrinking gray matter in the prefrontal cortex, according to MRI studies. The result? You become less capable of considering long-term consequences, driving impulsive, self-sabotaging actions. Your brain becomes a feedback loop of anxiety and impaired judgment, not a factory of fearless decisions. Memory isn't a static record. It's a dynamic process influenced by emotions. Stress interrupts this process by altering neurotransmitter release. A 2020 study at Johns Hopkins showed that stress reduces serotonin and dopamine levels, critical for mood and reward processing. Low dopamine can make you undervalue positive outcomes, skewing perceived risks and rewards. This neurotransmitter imbalance tricks your brain into recalling negative experiences more vividly than positive ones. These skewed memories reinforce anxiety-driven decisions, perpetuating self-sabotage. Synaptic strength shifts, not merely thoughts, dictate what memories solidify and what fades. Habits are encoded in the basal ganglia, a subcortical structure, but anxiety disrupts this encoding. A 2019 Stanford study revealed that chronic stress reduces dopamine receptor density in the basal ganglia, impairing your ability to form and maintain beneficial habits. Instead of reinforcing positive routines, your brain defaults to maladaptive ones. The habit loop becomes erratic, prioritizing immediate relief over long-term satisfaction. This disruption isn't just about willpower, it's neurochemical. The brain's inability to properly encode habits under stress leads to a cycle of repetitive, self-defeating behaviors. The myth of willpower ignores what happens inside your brain's default mode network, DMN. Research from Princeton in 2021 discovered that stress hyperactivates the DMN, making you ruminate on failures and doubts. This network becomes a breeding ground for negative self-talk, shifting your focus inwards rather than toward goal-oriented action. The more you ruminate, the stronger these neural pathways become. This isn't a mere mental exercise, it's structural. Each cycle of self-criticism deepens the groove of self-sabotage. The DMN's hyperactivity subverts your efforts, leaving you trapped in an endless loop of self-defeat. Cortisol's impact isn't just surface-level stress. It affects dendrite density in your hippocampus. A 2020 study from Columbia University detailed how prolonged cortisol exposure decreases dendritic complexity by up to 30%. Dendrites are the neuron structures that transfer electrical signals within your brain, crucial for memory and learning. Fewer dendrites mean reduced synaptic input, impairing your ability to process new information and adapt to new situations. This isn't a temporary glitch. The structural changes can last long-term, influencing your decision-making capabilities. The result is a brain less flexible, more rigid in its thinking, and prone to repeating past mistakes. Your amygdala and prefrontal cortex have a delicate connection, easily disrupted by stress. A 2018 study published in Nature Neuroscience showed that stress weakens the synaptic links between these regions, hindering your ability to regulate emotions. With this connection compromised, your brain defaults to primal, fear-driven responses instead of reasoned analysis. Stress induces higher glutamate release in the amygdala, heightening its activity and overpowering the prefrontal cortex's rational checks. This imbalance can make even minor challenges seem insurmountable, driving self-sabotaging behaviors. The amygdala's hyperactivity isn't just emotional, it's chemical, mediated by neurotransmitter shifts. Dopamine receptors play a pivotal role in reward processing, yet chronic stress downregulates them in your brain. According to a 2019 study from the University of Michigan, repeated stressors decrease D2 receptor density in the reward circuitry by up to 20%. This downregulation skews your perception of pleasure, making positive outcomes less rewarding and negative ones more salient. This biochemical shift impairs your motivation to pursue beneficial activities, instead reinforcing self-destructive choices. With fewer receptors responding to dopamine, the neurotransmitter's motivational pull diminishes, keeping you trapped in a cycle of unfulfilling habits. Inside the basal ganglia, stress alters habit encoding through disrupted signaling pathways. An experiment conducted at Stanford in 2021 found that stress modifies the activity of the ERK signaling pathway, crucial for habit formation. The pathway's disruption weakens your brain's ability to consolidate new routines, reinforcing maladaptive behaviors. This isn't just about forming habits, it's about how stress prioritizes short-term over long-term neural processes. Your brain's habit encoding loop becomes biased toward immediate relief, not sustainable habits. These changes are structural, not just behavioral, locking you into self-defeating cycles. Stress impacts the default mode network, DMN, by altering blood flow and neuronal activity. A 2022 study from Oxford University showed that stress increases DMN activity by 25%, fostering negative rumination. This heightened activity isn't just mental noise, it's regulated by changes in cerebral blood flow and glucose metabolism. Elevated DMN activity traps your brain in a loop of self-focus and doubt, hindering proactive decision-making. The structural underpinnings are clear. Enriched DMN connectivity reinforces negative thought patterns, creating a neurochemical setting that favors self-sabotage over constructive action. Chronic stress rewires your brain differently than acute stress. Acute stress triggers a short-term adrenal response, activating your fight-or-flight mechanism. In contrast, chronic stress induces a persistent state of alertness, remodeling brain circuits over time. Research from Yale in 2020 found that chronic stress reduces gray matter in the prefrontal cortex by up to 18%. This reduction affects cognitive flexibility and problem-solving. Meanwhile, the amygdala expands, heightening emotional responses. The long-term result is a brain architecture skewed toward fear and anxiety, not calm and clarity. Chronic stress solidifies these changes, promoting a cycle of self-sabotage. The self-help industry often touts instant solutions, but neuroscience tells a different story. Peer-reviewed studies, like those from the University of Cambridge in 2021, show that true cognitive restructuring takes time, weeks to months of consistent neural conditioning. Quick fixes rarely address the underlying neurological changes. Instead, they offer temporary relief without altering brain structure. Real change requires sustained effort to rewire synaptic connections and restore balance in neurotransmitter systems. The brain's resilience lies in its plasticity, but this isn't a rapid process. It's a gradual transformation, not a quick switch. Brain imaging studies reveal surprising truths about popular psychology claims. Functional MRI scans show that meditation can indeed reduce amygdala activity, contradicting the idea that stress is purely mental. A 2022 study from Harvard found a 15% reduction in amygdala volume after 8 weeks of mindfulness practice. This structural change doesn't happen overnight but demonstrates the brain's capacity to adapt and heal. While self-help narratives often simplify this journey, imaging studies provide concrete evidence of physical transformation. These findings challenge the notion that mindset changes are merely psychological; they're deeply neurophysical. In adolescence, synaptic pruning refines your brain, yet stress can disrupt this process. A 2021 study from UCLA highlighted how chronic stress accelerates synaptic pruning, leading to excessive loss of synaptic connections. This acceleration impairs cognitive development, making adolescents more prone to anxiety and self-sabotage. The pruning process, intended to optimize brain function, instead leaves the brain vulnerable to maladaptive patterns. These changes aren't just temporary; they establish long-term neural pathways that can persist into adulthood. The adolescent brain's resilience is compromised, setting a foundation for future cognitive and emotional challenges. Reframing stress as a challenge rather than a threat can alter its effects. A 2023 study from Stanford showed that individuals trained to view stress positively had a 23% increase in brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, expression. BDNF supports neuronal growth and synaptic plasticity, counteracting stress-induced damage. This shift isn't just psychological, it's biochemical. Increased BDNF levels promote the formation of new neural connections, enhancing resilience and adaptability. Rather than being solely an emotional strategy, reframing stress alters your brain's molecular environment. The numbers underscore a profound truth: perception shapes biology.